It kind of is. However, that's how it's always
Right.
since 1949. So,
Look, if I can get out of paying taxes, I can get out of paying taxes. I'll just pay them. Pay. As long as it's legal.
yes, we're absolutely. So I don't know, do you want to?
No, so here's what we'll do next is, just as a reminder, we'll go category by category. All of these items have been submitted by the administration and reviewed by Jen and I. You know, we didn't cut anything out. These are all, the minimum is $10,000. Okay, it has to be a $10,000 item or above, so you might see something here closer to $10,000, and you might see something here closer to $1 million, and everything in between. What I like about this process is that it speaks to priorities, and it allows you to prioritize some of our discretionary spending. So in each area, the administrator who submitted the item will explain the item, the cost, and most importantly, try to sell you. What's it going to take to get you into a state of Laurel today, right? So, so that we're going to start here with buildings and grounds. Ed, item number 1, replace the lights in the elementary.
We had them all last year. We had them painted gymnasium, the elementary, both gyms here, high school and elementary was great. Our next step was to replace the lights. And in years to come, we're gonna look to replace LED lights in classrooms and hallways as we get farther on down, years down the road. But this year, I'd like to look at doing the lights in the gymnasium, the elementary, at $13,000.
And again, I know I don't have to tell the board, but I'll tell the board anyway. You jump in as you see fit. Corey, if we don't hear you the first time, say it a second time. Go ahead.
I spoke with Jeff Pierce from McCurdy, Houston, and he's holding his price from last year. There's some aggressive rebates out there, and they could be going away by August. That's a possibility this year. So if it does go through, it could be another rebate. So I won't promise anything until we get that.
What kind of lights are we replacing? Are they old fluorescent?
It's a high bay gym lights, just like
Type of bulb?
it's a tap metal halide.
Okay.
So they're 400 watts every one.
Mhm.
We'll replace them with identical with the new gymnasium. Just in case there's ever an issue, we have one spare. So
And we can't just replace the bulbs, you gotta do the whole,
it's a fixture.
Fixture.
It's a fixture. So
yes. We just do. Did we run the numbers to see what the estimated savings would be?
I can look into that. I don't know that off the top of my head. Next item, replace the roof of 400 wing new locker room. This is called Section A, and the line below it is considered Section A and B. B includes the new gym, and these are all color coded. You may have seen these. These are part of the original roofs that have not been done yet. The 400 wing and the crossover hallway are getting very bad. There's a lot of blisters on them. The front overhang of the gymnasium, all the mineral surface is completely gone. The storage room and the area like the locker rooms between them are starting to have some issues. The gym itself with the peak roof is holding up well, even though it's over 20 years old. It's still holding up well. We possibly could go 2-3 more years. I just want to make sure you see the pricing of all of them together. But eventually we will have to do it. And they left an area over here on top of the cafeteria. Why I can't explain to you why. It's not been done.
There's a year's discrepancy between, and these documents are made by the same company, then it's a big deal. But this is marked 1997, and these are marked 1998. I'm curious, I mean, if it's 1 year at this particular point in time, I'm curious which one is most accurate.
Yeah. And my question is, so I know in the wrestling room, or is it the weight room, where we had mold, Because it was leaking, something was leaking,
We had water leak last year in the rice.
but it wasn't a roof thing.
There's things on that roof, and that is because part of this issue. And that is roughly where that here.
Okay, so we'd be addressing that part of that.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
That borders right next to the new gymnasium.
So Ed, you're not asking for 600 and 900, you're asking for either 600 or 900.
If I wrote it in the wrong, I apologize.
No. So, I just want them to read the way it's written.
So the gym is the other fee. So
Jim itself is actually holding on. The peak roof, water does flow off it, nothing sticks. It'll have to come in time. Right now, we probably can let it go. And I understand it's still a chunk of money there.
Well, the biggest thing is once it leaks and insulation gets wet, then you're at a whole other price range. But yeah, I don't know that we want to do those at the same time.
It can't be that long ago. Remember, they did something, we just redone the floor in the new gym or something. And they did roofing and tar come through and went on the floor.
That was the old gym.
Oh, was that the old gym?
That was in 2007.
Okay, I was gonna say, well, that's a long time ago. My God,
It seemed like yesterday.
I mean, yeah, that was floor. Brand new floor. That was the old gym, okay. I didn't know where you booked it.
Any more questions on the roof? The next item is, we have a golf cart here we use daily, well, in normally nicer weather, not today, but, I found a used one today for $7,500 and a new one down the street here. I think it's golf cart supply is, roughly close to $12,000.
How old's that car?
That cart we bought refurbished in '06. Again, it seems like yesterday, but
So it's not an 06, it was refurbished in 06.
refurbished. The next item is replace the softener in the basement of high school, bladder tank, and the boat pump. The boat pump, after we had issued the elementary, I started looking into it, and just like the dates, years is flying by, we're over 15 years on that boat pump, and that seems like yesterday too. To be proactive, it needs to be done this summer. If that goes down, we could feed water up here, but it could be a bad service.
I remember when we had issues with water supply here and there. We were gonna put booster pumps in, so we wouldn't have that issue. Did we ever do that?
We put a transfer pump in. The transfer pump will help pump water back and forth. It's not a high volume pump. It's the biggest one we can put for the size of line we have between buildings. We only have 1.5 inch line between the buildings.
But that would push water to the rest. Remember that? We didn't have water.
It will push water back and
Limited.
forth. Our
Okay.
high volume, we could be running low.
Yeah.
It's only 1.5 inch line.
For a new one in, other 150,000 in the world.
No, it's chuckle, that's
I'll
why I
bet
have
that's
my
what
house
I'm
in my
gonna do.
shop.
I'll bet a ditch switch, I'll put it in for half.
Some year, if we ever decide to upgrade the stadium, we'd have to put a bigger line.
Bob, go ahead and explain that.
The water softener in the basement, little information behind that. We had a complete audit with the DEP last July, August. Elementary, we went by flying colors. High school, we have 2 issues starting to happen. Currently, we only soften the hot water. Our iron levels are rising. They're not an alarming rate, they are rising. And our manganese. Manganese is a ground, everything you do, but anyways, it's starting to rise. The DEP did cite us, they wrote us up for it, that we need to correct this in a reasonable time frame. Speaking with bulk approach, people who currently do our water, we have several ideas we looked into. The bad thing is, we're at a roof in the basement. We come up with an idea, it's just something to throw at you. We'd like to cut a hole into the coal bins, clean the coal bins out and utilize that. Two big areas. If we clean them, painted them, put a couple lights in, it's a huge area, almost the size of this room right here, can be utilized.
Is it heated or not? Is it,
It will not be heated, well, it won't be heated because the heat in the basement right now from our current boilers, it's warmer than in this room right now.
and that would go over there pretty soon.
Couple things are coming about now. When we put the elementary system in, we got in right before the requirements changed. Now, the biggest thing would be the contact time of water if we chlorinate. To meet the requirements of our contact time, we have to have a different tanks in the basement, which we don't have room for. Or which, what the person told us they can do is they would, in the back, where our lift is, our old crane that lifts up out of the ground, they'd have a hole there, and then tunnel under the parking lot, and put roughly 250 feet of 12-inch pipe underground, 6 to 8 feet down, that would have chlorination time to meet our requirements. If we don't chlorinate this time, then we would have a positive sample that would put us in a different category of testing and sampling our water. Lately, we've not had any bad tests, but if we would, somebody would have to be here 365 days a year.
Does the chlorine have anything to do with the rust and the manganese, or are they two separate issues?
The rest of the manganese will be taken out with the softener system.
And is iron and manganese unhealthy for you? I mean,
There is some articles regarding it. It would be great to look into it. I know this is, I don't want to bring up tonight, but I can share some information.
So if you fix the water, I mean, all this piping is probably black iron, is it not, most of it?
Most of the stuff here.
It's ancient.
Most of the stuff here in the building's concrete.
Oh, really? Oh. So it will not, it's not gonna pick up iron from like iron pipe then if it's not.
These samples were taken directly from the well.
Oh. Okay.
We took several samples, we flushed the system. We tried a lot of different things this past fall to get our levels lower. And it- Yes, the city water is a couple miles down the road, but that's probably never gonna come here. And if we paid to have that come here, we'd probably spend $3 to $4 million to get it here. Let alone paying for water every month, which would probably be $3,000 water bill. every month. A lot of things to absorb at one time, but
Where is the city water and at Gaslight, is it,
I believe it's close to Gaslight. I don't know exactly where.
Gaslight has it, I think. That's it.
that's-
Big Pat doesn't have,
I think it stops until he drinks.
I don't know where.
Stop it.
It's safe for you.
Iron's good for you, I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, you're all right.
So Ed, if we broke these three things apart, the softener, the bladder tank, the well pump, can you tell us what each one is?
Cost-wise?
Yeah.
Oak Approach did not, they gave me a rough idea of 260,000 roughly for everything. He did not start the design of this yet, because he can't do design build, and what they've done for a lot of schools in our same circumstance. I think Bonnetal was just done the same thing. Mohawk was actually had this issue a few years ago, and they shut the school down for several days to get into being in place. He did not break it down until he knows for sure that we're going to award him the contract. In case he has to go out to bid.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to give you, do some labor, because he has an engineer on site who does it for him. He does all the permitting, the engineers and the state proposals, because everything has to be approved by the state.
Now, when he says bladder tanks, you mean a pressure tank?
We have a pressure tank in the basement that was put in during our renovation. And I tried to change it at that time because I felt that was like a 1960 something. We have air contact in the water, there's no bladder, it's just a tank. We currently have been having a problem with that tank for the last 8 years. But if we are going to do this, it's something we should do it and do it correctly for people. There'll be probably 3 bladder tanks. The softeners will be almost identical to the elementary. Only bad thing would be the piping that would be underground.
Yeah, I mean, we might wanna look at it without the pump, I don't know what the pump costs. but
Our pump, I think last year was about 20, 30.
That's all.
And they would consider it a variable speed pump at that time. Anything else on tanks? We have a man lift that's been here before me. We have some starting with it. We use it quite often here. Reaches up in the gymnasiums, the auditorium, all around this building. Both buildings we haul back and forth. I would love to replace it before somebody gets hurt. Just definitely start all the slides, everything's starting to work.
Is it a scissor lift?
It's just a straight up like a genie lift.
Okay.
It goes 24 feet high, and we can't jeopardize somebody getting hurt on that. The only good thing he can tell me, he wouldn't tell the exact number, they would take it as a trade-in, so we could look at maybe get $3,500. And they would refurbish them and sell them. I'd like to replace the lights on the next item. Sorry, is there anything else on that, man? Please?
So I assume 11,950 is the new price of all refurbished.
That is correct.
Could you bring back a price on comparison on the refurbishment or refurbishing our lift? Or lift has never been refurbished.
Yeah, and they'll include the trade-in.
So I think to be clear, the board's asking for new minus a trading value. B, what's the refurb cost? C, what's the cost to refurb what we have? So they'll have that body of options to make a pick.
Thank you. Next item is our lights in the old gymnasium that we put, we redid the floor, the walls and bleacher last year. The gym looks great. Now that we replaced them. Them are the original lights from that gymnasium. And they're still 400 watt metal rated wall posts. And the last item on my list is, there's no one I can see of them, but some bleachers and benches to complete everything outside. Last year we split that list in half, and we bought some aluminum benches. We decided to go with the 4-tier benches. They're much cheaper. There's no surrounding fence, so you know what? They're good for what they're used for. I'm going to replace the rest of the wooden ones that are out there, and the other benches are going to be for an dugout. Last one is a marquee. I didn't get a price on that.
I was gonna say, I can't believe it wouldn't be on. They're on there every year.
So a lot of people ask me, first Kevin left, Mark. You know, I tried to think on my own, what would make them leave
It's the marquee.
a place this short of heaven? And you know, Mark came into my office and they said, Len, can I close the door? I said, sure, Mark, you know, what's on your mind? But Len, I just can't take it anymore. I don't know if you've been on Mohawk School Road, but they have a beautiful digital marquee on the corner of the property,
Just
and
like
we
Mark,
don't.
you won't have to do them no more.
Exactly. So
What a
that, my
godsend for you,
friends,
huh?
was the difference
Say
maker.
something, Mark.
They kept the old school one too. They still have the old one too. That is a nice marquee.
Yeah, for the 5 people who drive down Mohawk School Road.
Right.
I do have one thing.
Yes.
The girls had asked me last year in volleyball about the basketball nets at the end of the court having them changed so they could go up, but we had to take them off to the side. So so they can run as fast as the volleyball tournaments. Like we might.
Yeah. Just the price on first for those hoops. Those being
Is that the old gym?
the new gym.
The new gym.
Yeah, they wanted to put those courts in. And remember we measured the nets and they were too long. They were trying to get the hoops.
We talked practice, next.
Yeah. So we're just
Yeah, you guys came up with, they couldn't go up, they had to go out.
they'll go out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's walk that tomorrow.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we'll add that to the list.
So you have this on tape, I did ask. Thanks, sir.
Carrie's not here. Did she talk to you about the garbage disposal?
Yes, I think she's trying to get them on a, grant, is that correct?
They're in the equipment grant now that is possibly going to be awarded this month, but we have not been successful in the past. So crossed, but not.
Sorry.
It's okay.
We replaced one at the elementary a couple years ago. The two at the high school we didn't have a problem with. They sit through the summertime, they seize up, we have free them. They've been here a long time. They don't even make them styles anymore. So,
That's my only fear. Get rid of those ones, you're gonna be replacing them every 2 years. The old ones that they, if they last.
they're quality, 20 plus years old. And when it goes on that drain, they take a beating.
Oh, sure. Sure, there's been a few spoons and forks.
Anything else for Ed?
One question on the marquee,
Yeah.
the 45 grand.
Yeah.
Are we trying to just get the cat's meow where we can sit in the building and do this and it just comes up? Or are we, because there's lots of different versions, right? There's the kind that you can program what you want, walk out, plug in with a USB, hit upload, that uploads it. There's ones that are Bluetooth that you just gotta walk out, buy it, hit that. Or are we trying to pay extra money to have it so we're sitting in the office doing this?
So, I would prefer to sit in the office and do this.
Well, yeah, anybody would.
Right. But I think we can get some more specific pricing on those different levels. But also too, we're not looking at doing a V, having two. Looking to do one.
Yeah.
Like we see on both sides, which I think with some of our initial proposals, we were thinking we were gonna do two. So we're looking, so that in addition to walking that, we can revisit some of our older vendors that we pulled out and older prices and see if we can have a meeting with them and get a more specific spec on that with either remote program from the office versus saving it and taking it out and plugging it
Yeah, because most of those, they're upgradable, right? You start off with where you gotta plug in, then it's just running the wire and doing it. They got point-to-point ones where you put a little point-to-point in the window, and there's more.
The other thing I'd like to add to the marquees is having sponsorship.
Well, actually, I think that would kill it. Yeah.
I would not want somebody else's name on the bottom of the marquee.
Or,
Well, I was
or
just,
girls basketball game tonight, shop at Giant Eagle.
well, I was just thinking like, so like when you go,
Depends on what's judging.
when you go on 228, like when you're on 228 going toward like Mars High School, their marquee, they have like Mars Bank,
Well,
one of the sponsors that are on there.
yeah, but there's other ways to do it, right? If you think about the football field, where people bought those little bricks and put their name on it.
Right.
Could we go out and reach out to the alumni and say, hey, would people be interested in doing it? Have, people would do the stone out on 422, make a plaque and put everybody's name on it. Right? Does it have to be as big as what we have now? Right? Yeah, I know it needs to
You
be.
can make it like Shenango, you can't read the damn thing unless you go 15 miles.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. I want to kind of mirror what Hammer was saying, because that's the first thing I think of. Those things are so goddamn ugly. It could give the Powerball numbers and nobody would even look at them. I have no interest in putting up that ugly ass amber light marquee. I mean, nobody reads them. I almost just want to wait for the technology and pay for it when the marquee is almost like an LED screen that has like a background. It almost looks like a television that people can look at and see as almost like a digital billboard or something that, you know, kind of looks professional. I think we're going backwards. If we got one of them stupid moving tickers or, you know, that have the amber lighting, nobody, I don't care what the hell they say, the administration might like programming them, but nobody looks at them. I mean, Len, you live in Shenango. Tell me how many times you've actually read that thing.
Words. Like when my nephew was student of the month, but I'm just a little proud of it.
Then you were going 10 miles an hour so you could read it.
It's a school zone.
Well, you have to take
We're
a
going 10
picture.
miles, we're going 10 miles an hour in the morning.
Well, you only do that if you see a cop sitting around it. I hate them people who do that shit.
I've seen a couple nice ones. I can't think of where offhand. But I don't like mechanics. It's small. And then they have the messages flip upside down, which I don't understand at all. But,
I'm with him. Wait until we get like in the football thing, like the Shannons. You got the whole damn TV screen. Sort of. Hey, what the hell? We're going broke anyway. Spend
Let's
$150,000.
go. Taj Mahal. That's
I
right,
don't
Jeff.
care.
Taj
Go
Mahal.
for it.
Let's go.
I might run one more time just to see how it ends. Be at the closing act.
So there's some work to be done on information for the marquee. Okay.
I'm a no. Lance is a no. Me. I only need what? I need 3 more.
Yep.
Okay.
So you do.
Lance will get a couple, and I'll get. We'll make it. Mark, glad you're leaving. You'll have to be out there next year putting the damn numbers up.
Don't worry, Mark. We'll get you a supplemental.
Oh, boy. I think we found the theme tonight. Okay.
Yeah, Mark, you can drive past next year and see that damn sign. So say, thank God.
Okay. Elementary school.
This was on last year, building clock system. So basically we have 3 different systems going down there. One on the new end of the building, one on the original end of the building, and then some battery powered ones. They're not synced up. Clocks are never right, never working. So this system would include analog clocks, which I think is important for the kids to see and use, but at least the whole building then would be on one time frame. And we could look at clocks and know where we're at.
Did you have a thought on that a few months ago? Like how your phone does.
last year, I think.
Yeah.
Because it'll be the high school.
Yeah.
No. Yes. No.
I mean, they have all kinds of different options out there, but I mean, like 24,000,
Good to go.
that online.
All right. Stamp that one.
It does seem like a lot of money just to tell time, though, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, do they have the PA speakers in them? Or is this just the clock system?
This is just the clock
synchronized?
system. Yeah, it'll just all be on one system.
Just like in the old days, you see the clock and all of a sudden the minute hand starts moving. Oh my God, we're getting out of here early.
Yeah. Didn't matter, the bell never went off.
No.
If you would, though, between you and Ed, if you could double check for accurate pricing.
Okay.
Middle high school?
Engineering license, that's our cyber program we're currently running. We had 7 full-time cyber people in it this year, them in the house. So that would be paid for with ESSER money. We'd like to continue updating furniture in teachers' classrooms. We had 10,000 earmarked this year. We spent pretty much all of it to this point. So we'd like to continue.
Who would be next?
Mr. Wypeck has asked for some chairs for his CAD lab and some different things he does with entrepreneurship class. And Mrs. Scott has asked for some tables and chairs for her room. I have some POs for both of those. Like, we have a little bit of money left. We'd like to purchase some stuff for Mr. Wybeck this year and then put that money in Mrs. Scott's, whatever's in there for Mrs. Scott for next year.
Mark, whenever you say 10 grand, is that like 2 rooms or 5 grand per room to do it?
We get about a year. It depends on what they order. For the most part, the tables are obviously more expensive. The type of tables. So generally for $7,500, we can do a whole room. And then the other $2,500, we try to piecemeal that together to do a room in sections.
So 1.5.
We went with a different vendor. We were using K-Log before, but we started going with a different vendor. Can't think of the name off the top of my head. But their shipping was a quarter the price, so it was actually a lot better for us. It was classrooms we were actually starting to use.
And how many classrooms do we have and how many do we have updated?
Let's see. So on the first floor, we have Mr. Surgeonista's room's updated. Mrs. Buckner / Lagomba, she changed her name. Her room's updated. Mrs. Rambo's room's updated. Mrs. Miles and Mrs. Long's room were done through special ed this past year. Upstairs, Gordeski, Walzer, Mrs. Wolf's English room, going around the corner, Mr. Rogers' room, and we got tables coming for, we got some chairs coming for, we got tables in Mrs. Skirvitz and chairs in Mrs. Skirvitz's room. So,
How many classrooms do we have total?
we have 35 teachers up here in this building, so roughly 30.
20 of them are done.
We're about halfway.
9.5.
When the renovation was done, the English tables that came in this wing up here, this English wing, are pretty nice and pretty user friendly. And then the science labs, like Mr. Skirvitz, Mr. Schellenberger, and Mr. Allman, they like those hard top tables for doing experiments and stuff like that. So a lot of them are good, and we're just trying to, again, moving away from those traditional. I've been told the old school desks are the best for cracking your back if you're a student.
That's true.
But comfort-wise and educationally, like, when we just redid Mrs. Skirvitz's room, teaching accounting too, kids had to lay out their stuff, lay out their materials. They didn't have enough space on those desks. I know when Mrs. Wolf went from her traditional tables to her smaller desks, she's able to get kids to pair up, to separate out without taking a class period to rearrange furniture. So it's added to some collaboration, some pair share stuff, independent work too. So again, trying to get the teachers what they feel suits them best, and trying to get, again, the biggest thing is, I feel like if you're comfortable and excited to be in a classroom, you're going to learn more and retain more. So. School safety robot. Again, our program has been expanding. Moving Mrs. Lennox up here has been great. Her and Mr. Walzer have been working together really well. She's starting to take some computer science courses. She wants to go further down the road with computer science. I think you're seeing on the agenda, she wants to be approved to go on a computer science trip. So expanding this school safety robot idea and then trying to expand it down into the elementary school to spur this idea of computer science and robotics is in the forefront of Mr. Walzer's mind. Lastly on here, continuing with upgrading the gymnasium, I'm going to call it, I don't want to call it the old gym anymore. I'd like to refer to it as the wrestling gymnasium. Again, these wrestling events that we've been getting in here, our wrestling teams have been really expanding. There are no soundboards in that old gymnasium. So if you're in there coaching or at an event, the echo is just, I don't want to say it's unbearable, but it's hard to enjoy it. So we looked at, Mr. Walzer got some prices on soundboards, nice green and white ones that would go around the gym that would take away that problem and dress up the gym a little bit more. Again, if you look at the soundboards in the new gym, they're not very aesthetically pleasing, and they have an end of life on them because you can only paint those so many times. These boards wouldn't have that same problem because they're like a cloth / plastic material that would, be able to with indoor gym class, but not cause that problem where you can't paint them so many times. So, lastly, continuing on, any questions on any of those things? I'll go over athletics. The track is back on. I think we got another year out of it. hopefully once the thaw comes, it's able to, you know, again, hopefully we can continue to get years out of it, but eventually it's going to come to an end of life where it needs to be replaced. And the last thing on here, upgrading the sound system at the stadium. So we looked at two things. Currently, there's one speaker out at the stadium it's broken. So if you're standing in that corner down by the concession stand, you have a hard time hearing things. It's because of that speaker right there is out. So we want to upgrade speakers. When they put them in, they weren't big enough, and that's the problem. Like the announcing, we have to turn those up to max volume. That's why these speakers we've had speakers replaced since I've been here. So we'd like to get bigger speakers out there so we don't have that problem with this volume control and constantly replacing speakers. And the last thing we added in was, you know, for not the avid football fan, but a referee mic system. I was going to say somewhere around $7,000 added into that cost. That would move the games along because all the referees would be mic'd with each other, so they wouldn't have to huddle up as much to talk about things. And then when the referee calls a penalty, he can go over the system so everybody in the stadium can understand what he's calling. So,
Anyone locally do that?
we've had referees, like, again, when you get those different crews out of Pittsburgh, they're able to bring their mics and their system with them, and we've been able to. We had it one time since I've been here because we had a team out of the Big 56 come, a crew out of the Big 56 come. They brought their little modulator and they had their system, and it was nice. So, again, speeds the game up, and it's nice for the fans because they understand what they're complaining about when they're complaining. Questions on any of that?
All right. Nothing really new that's on here. The first project is the switches, the outer layer switches. This actually includes a core switch as well, and all UPS battery backups. I know that's a large project. This number reflects after E-rate subsidies. Some of the switching infrastructure we have is 18 years old. And when you consider the fact that they run 24/7, 365 days a year, we've had 6,579 days so far with some of those switches. So I know those are big numbers, but when you put it into perspective on how long they last, and I'm certain Mr. McGee, you could speak to this as well. You know, you're looking at something that lasts multiple years. So we got 18 years out of them. One of the big problems is their bottlenecking. You may have people complain about speeds. Right now, we have some outer layer switches and some switches that are only 10/100, which is, you know, we can't do anything with that in regards to speed. To make it really simple, think about it from a drain pipe perspective. If you would go from, you know, take a 6-inch pipe into a 3-inch pipe, you can only put so much water through that. That's the same thing with the traffic on our infrastructure.
So are you saying that the ports are dying?
No,
We don't have the bandwidth.
both. Remember you asked me yesterday or last year if this was a need one, you know, or a wish.
Right.
And I told you all three.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be replacing them. Guaranteed.
Oh.
We have switches that are dying ports, some that are not PoE capable, so we have to use infusers. Not a big deal. Injectors, excuse me.
Yeah, but
But both.
my point is with switches, usually you see a port die.
Yeah.
And then you see another port die.
Oh, it's happening, definitely.
So that's what I'm asking,
Yes.
is how many ports?
If we would take a walk, I could show you some all over the place. And they're the older ones. They're the older switches. Yeah. So both. This also would include, you know, cabling as well. Not new fiber runs, but new cabling as needed. So it's a soup to nuts type solution.
Is it cheaper going fiber?
You're talking about at the bottom, or that doesn't include new fiber. We have a lot of fiber running throughout the district, and whenever we looked at it, I didn't feel like it would warrant replacing it. I mean, it's not the newest. And
Right now, with the cost of fiber and copper, it's not really.
so it's not included. The only fiber would be the fiber run to the gym, or excuse me, the stadium. Mhm.
Okay.
So cameras, same project. We've been expanding, replacing This also includes licensing. We have, since I've been here, we have done this. We have moved things around. We have extended this year. We actually, per Chief Whelan and Officer Hill's recommendations, we added additional coverages into the back parking lots. And by the back, I'm talking about all the way back in the front to the rear, because we could not see at the far end. So we mounted higher cameras, higher resolution. So we do have new equipment there. We also expanded on blind spots throughout the district, reallocating equipment as we can, but also blind spots that were that Officer Hill brought to our attention. It usually happens because there was an accident or something that would warrant them, like, hey, why do we have a blind spot? So we have been making our rounds through there. It's gotten better, and I'm certain that Mr. Frangel, Mr. Swerbley, and Mrs. Columbus can speak to that. It's not perfect, but we're definitely making gains there. Chromebook refresh, that's really in the staff refresh. Those are really just costs of doing business. That's just part of the refresh cycle. We use Chromebooks literally every single day. This would put approximately 100 in each building, and that would follow the refresh cycle. The staff laptops, this would be what we are proposing to do rather than replace with laptops, replace with desktops. It would be cheaper, and it's more cost effective. And we would also have noticed a lot of problems, or challenge, I should say, with laptops. We may save money on the front, or at least perceived, but we're throwing good money after bad a lot of times because we have to use certain adapters for peripherals and so forth. So the replacement machines for the staff would come with, they are higher end machines, but they're refurbs. And this is the same company I've been using for years. We've used them here. Nice thing about this company, we're getting an enterprise class machine at a fraction of the cost, but more importantly, the parts for those devices are, it's a lifetime warranty. So if a hard drive dies, I call them, pick it up, and they send me a new one. And the other thing, I spec these out with future proofing in mind, so they will be capable of running Windows 11. We do not run Windows 11 currently in-house because a lot of our machines will not support that. But this is future proof, so we wouldn't have to come back and say, oh, we have to switch this next year because it would not support the operating system.
Now, what's the staff think about going from a laptop to a desktop?
That was an administrative decision based upon difference per unit. So we didn't present an option of either or. Big decision that we're switching back to the towers because the difference per unit, about $400 each.
What's their ability to log into their desktop from home?
We do not. I mean, we could set up Google Remote Desktop, but we also, as I was talking to Mr. Rich about this because we were concerned about potential FID days, or if we have a snow day, or have to move to remote instruction between Chrome devices. And we have some additional devices, some Surface Go's. They're not a true substitute for a laptop, but we got them through ECF funding, so we do believe we would have some solutions in place that would allow teachers to stay mobile.
Also, on the agenda this month, we're asking for the ability as we cycle these laptops out to let them.
What about, have we looked into renting our technology?
Leasing, that's most certainly an option. I haven't looked into that, but I could bring you some prices if that would be something you would prefer.
Okay, I'll give you a guy to talk to.
Okay. Alma, Study Island, Linkit, those are all just, that's our student information system. Study Island's the program that they use for benchmarking, and also Linkit's our data warehouse. So those are all items that we're either under contract with or just we absolutely must have to do business. And lastly, the fiber run to the stadium. One thing I want to point out, we talked about this, Mr. McGee, being a high cost. This includes a hardened switch, which is extremely expensive, but is necessary due to the fact that we do not have temperature regulation in that building. If we put a regular switch in there, it would most certainly, it would die.
Yeah, my question is, why don't we just run a point to point?
We most certainly can do that. We'll still have an expenditure that'll be high off of the hardened switch. That's,
Yeah, but the hardened switch, then you don't need a hardened switch out there.
we would need infrastructure in there. Once we get the internet over to there, we would need to be able to feed it into the appropriate places.
But I mean, that's not that big of a deal. I mean, you're talking about something that gets used for a couple months out of the year. I'd much rather tell the kids, okay, we're gonna leave all the cables, go pull the switch out of there and bring it back in the building at the end of the football season.
If that's what you would like to do, we most certainly could do that.
I mean, that would be a cheaper and easier way to go.
I have a price for the point to point if that's what you would like me to do.
I think we ought to look at that, know what it is.
It just depends on which way we want to approach it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The idea is having conductivity out there.
Now, if you do want to put out, and I'm not, so we're trying to future-proof us a little bit. If we want to put out surveillance, if we want to expand there,
Then
that would be a
you
little bit
gotta
different.
keep the hardened switch
Yeah.
out there.
That was the rationale behind it,
Right.
trying to think a couple steps ahead.
I thought that was part of our safety too, though, Rob, is that we had to mount some security cameras out the bottom of the tractors.
That is another piece of it. So,
Do we have a lot of concerns with safety out there? We had instances?
We did have,
We had one, didn't we?
yeah,
A couple years ago.
yep.
any questions about any of those items?
That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you.
First thing on mine is, to get rid of the 2 9-passenger green vans and had since 06 and drive with 2 mini.
Get them yet?
Well, we're not going after the transit, 9 passengers, we're going down the class to the minivan, which
Okay.
is 6, right?
Oh, okay.
6 in the driver, 7.
They've been using the 2 that we have. We have 2 small vans now, but they're rotated out here like enterprise rental car. So they've been doing fine. So if we could get something like that and get the money out of the other one.
Our little Dodge minivan has how many miles on it?
The one with almost 200. And the other one's we drove over 102. But it's a nice one, but it's starting to add the miles up too. But like I said, the van's never stopped. We could use 5.
As Joe pointed out, my father was involved in the whole process for the 2 9-passenger vans. So they're almost done well.
Yeah, they've been here since 06, and like I said, I still think we can get 5,000 to 6,000 piece out of them.
Especially since you did what you did.
Yes, that's
Took the duct tape off and
Actually fixed it.
fixed the body pin.
But yeah, they look decent. The next item on here is a police car.
Cop cars. I'm joking.
So this was at the request of the school police. You know, if we're approved through PCCD and we get the mules, this need probably goes away. Probably the golf cart goes away. Every day, the school.
I didn't know if this was the one that we talked about before. that had
It
the
was, but he
transmission.
doesn't think it's the transmission. So we wouldn't even be looking to replace this, would be an and one, so we could have, when we have 2 on duty, they each have their own car, and I like the visibility of that. Joe, what do you think that this might be? Not necessarily the transmission that you talked about.
On my board report, I had a little bit of an update. That is a 2013 that we have now. It's 138,000 miles. It's a decent car, and it is an all-wheel drive car, which is kind of nice. The transmission seems to be fine. It's got a misfire right now. That's what's going on. So something electrical on one of the cylinders. For what we got in that car and for what it does, it's actually perfect for it.
Yes, we're not looking to get rid of that.
No, unless we determined later on that the engine had a serious problem, or the transmission had a serious problem, but other than that, everything else is kind of easy. Great. Next thing on this is a wheelchair van, non-CDL. We do have 2 wheelchair vans here now, and they're, not everybody knows that they are school buses. You have to have a CDL to drive. But what we got going on now, we have one child going to Sewickley. We got this dually van running around with one child and one monitor on, which you could really downsize by having just a small van with one. You don't have to worry about somebody having a CDL. And then the things are kind of big to be just running with one child. And then the other van that we run around here every day involves 2 wheelchair kids all the time. But that's what they're designed for. They're designed, you can put 4 wheelchairs in some of them. You can take the seats out. So one of my vans, we got like 2 seats and we got 2 wheelchairs in there. So when we're only on one to Swiftly, it's kind of a waste running this big vehicle. And then we're struggling trying to, okay, we got one van that got to go, and I got to get somebody who can drive the bus to drive this van. I can't just grab somebody to create this van. And they got so many different wheelchair stuff out there too. It's so popular with, everything needs a wheelchair van. So there's going to be a lot of stuff out there. But they're not cheap, but we need it when we need to have it. We never know what we're going to be up against. Next thing, we have Seal Elementary Playground. Mr. Swartley had asked me about sealing the playgrounds where this is and I want to seal this from high school parking.
But my question relative to playground versus high school parking lot is obviously the high school parking lot gets sold.
Yes.
But the elementary playground does not get sold. What's the advantage of sealing for not putting any corrosive material down?
I think we just wanted to make it look more uniform down here. It's kind of, Dan, you have any?
I mean, just, we do put salt on it when it gets ice out there for, for playground, if they can still go out and play. We had to have that section redone again too, so there's kind of like a seam there. I just let, protect our investment, give a nice seal
That's
on
my
it.
question, Joe. Is that a
Stretch it.
protection of our investment?
Well, sealer,
If you have cracks, what do you have sold them off?
sealer is a big expense that we have on. I don't know how much it does protect. But we got, it's not cheap. I mean, these guys want $10,000 to seal parking lot. We don't know what they're putting on the parking lot. And we're gonna look at this elementary parking lot as soon as the weather breaks. They just sealed it last year. I don't know, I think it's holding up. But
I was just clearing my throat.
so that's what, but the idea of the sealer is that it's supposed to protect that asphalt. But over time, if you start getting cracks, they crack seal, and then there's still no guarantee that it's going to keep it.
And there's many grades of sealing too, correct?
And that's what happened last year. Everybody said, like, changed all this asphalt sealers and, so,
That stuff Protect was using was pretty nice stuff, but I don't know, that's been 3 years ago since we used
the
it.
thing is, like you said, you start sealing all these parking lots, you got 10,000, 15,000. You start jumping around over 6 years, we got $100,000 in sealing.
I always thought the advantage was they put sand in the sealer, which kept you from tearing up the asphalt when your cars were turning and stuff like that.
It also is protected from the salt and the stuff that we dump on it. You constantly have to keep salting if nobody's gonna fall. And it's just, and when you get a crack, we keep salting this stuff. It's just so bad.
Well, that's a problem, once you salt, the crack gets so big. I mean, you keep the water from getting down in there and freezing and make it worse. Once it gets so big, the sealer isn't enough to fill the crack.
You have to crack seal it. But I looked at all the pavement all over the place, not just the wall, it's a nightmare. But we have to keep up with some of it.
You don't think the quality of the asphalt's the same?
It's like concrete.
If you take all the good stuff out of it, you leave you with all this environmentally friendly stuff that doesn't.
But as far as pavement repairs, the front entrance. From the front entrance all the way up to the gym, it looks sore. I have a little diagram on there, square footages. But that's when you can look out there and you can see it's been patched up by the gym many years ago. There's a seal. Mill it out from the road all the way up to the gym, make a nice section. And everything else pretty much for the front of the school's all been replaced over the last 7 years. Nothing's been done in front of the bus garage up to the road for many years, but it's still good enough. But the main entrance, we don't need to have to blow up and have mud coming up and everything else. So it's going to be a good spot to pay a lot of attention to the kid.
So concludes round one. Obviously, vets, we know that this is a long process, but you heard everything. Before you get a budget for reading one in May, there will be several revisions to what's in and what's out, etc. Thank the administrative team for putting this together at this time. Any questions overall before we end the state of Laurel? All right, Rob, let's switch.
All right.
That's your invites. You should